It's tea time, y'all.
Yep.
What are we doing?
We are doing some Rob
485. 485.
Yeah.
6, 5,
from
7, 2.
The fine folks over at Tea Encounter, Tiago,
Nice.
who has, it's been a hot second since we've tried some of their stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm constantly digging into my, huge bin of samples.
Yeah.
It's funny, because branding does kind of become a cheat code at that point. I'm like, I know this label. Oh, smells great.
Yeah, so this is a Yiwu area production, the Walong. Tea Encounter, for those of you not familiar, sells a lot of Zhensilong Productions. That's a Chinese producer out there in Yunnan, so...
So perfumey, so floral.
And he emailed me pretty recently and was like, yeah, you guys had talked about how you'd be curious to see how the teas would age. And so he decided to send us some that has been stored in Xishuangbanna out there in Yunnan for 6-7 years, I think, and see how it is. So,
Nice.
This tea is 9 years old, so not quite a decade old, but very close to it.
You should taste something on the age at least at this point.
Yeah.
Smells fantastic. Yeah, even just, again, the dry leaves themselves have just a really beautiful aroma. Very perfumey. Obviously, it's a raw clear. I mean, you're going to get those kind of darker, deeper, earthy flavors, too.
Yep.
I'm kind of so partial to Yiwu. I just really enjoy the complementary sweetness.
And this one still, even though it has a bit of age under it, still very much smells fairly fresh, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of those fresher floral notes still.
Mm-hmm.
A little corn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, this is a very nice spring day, I guess. Yeah. Late March. And so, yeah, enjoying this. Cheers.
Salute. Pip pip. Yeah. Down the hatch. What else?
All the way down the hatch, good lad. It's nice and thick. It's like one of those Yiwus that's not too slight, which is something I usually enjoy.
Yeah.
It's even like a hint of bitterness to it.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
Interesting.
I agree with you. It's surprisingly viscous for starting, right?
Yeah.
It's going to taste more strong the next brew, but yeah, it's actually pretty thick.
Yeah.
It's nice. And it makes you wonder about the material when it was first pressed.
Yeah. I mean, for all we know, there might be a TDB video on this same tea. I know what episode we're on, but I actually don't know if
There's too many.
Oh
my God.
It's absolutely possible that we have. I mean, we've certainly brought in some Tea Encounter teas from the same era.
Mm-hmm. There's a slight grassiness that reminds me of a white tea in this, actually. Really delicate, kind of subtle.
Yeah.
A really nice residual flavor.
Yeah, and it's certainly, I would say, easily dry aged at this point. It's not a hint of humidity that I can really detect here.
Yeah, very clean.
Yeah. Keep this water nice and warm.
Sure.
So we can give this tea a nice stress test.
And for teas like this that tend to be more delicate, are you trying to push them with heat often? What is your kind of strategy, if you will?
Not necessarily, but I do feel like I always want to give pours a stress test.
Yeah.
And see just like if it bends, if it gets sour, if it gets extra bitter.
Yeah.
And like we're getting really right now into the money steep. So, it's possible my water had cooled down just a little bit too much, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's nice.
Bring out more of the fruity notes to this one. Interesting.
Yeah, thick, quite thick.
Yeah. Pretty different from Steve 1 too. Okay. That Steve I could taste definitely a bit more of the age. Those fruit flavors, not necessarily things you're going to get on a super fresh tea.
And I'm just sort of thinking in my mind here, thinking in my mind? Thinking outside of my mind. Whoa. Yeah, make that make sense.
Where is my mind?
That Yiwu's typically, a young Yiwu is going to be, I feel like, a little bit more sweet, honestly. Like that really saccharine sweet, almost like, did someone add sugar to this, but still plenty of that kind of like peaty essence of raw. This, I think, evolved a little bit past that super saccharine sweet, immediate thing that I often really enjoy from young Yiwu.
Yeah.
Mm.
So would you say that you like Yiwus in the state more or less than really fresh Yiwus?
I think I might be partial to fresh, to be honest with you. Not that this is bad, but this tastes more like a classic raw to me. I'm not noticing the Yiwu-ness of this tea as much. Maybe is one way of putting it.
Interesting.
And it's just going to be because of the age again, but it's interesting too because this one, unlike a lot of Yiwu that we've had, minus a couple episodes ago, this has a bit more oomph to it. Bit more of those bassy notes.
My guess is it had those from the start too,
Must have.
which makes me think that it's probably not necessarily like the softest, sweetest Yiwu when it's fresh even.
So almost kind of contrary to a typical Yiwu that would be usually intended to drink early, this would be prepared and, at least the material demanded it hang out for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, getting more into familiar notes. Again, the tea maintains a decent thickness, which I think is maybe one of the more consistently notable things about the tea. Corn.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I do like it quite a bit. And I think this is probably a good example of an Yiwu that's stored, that's retaining a lot of those initial characteristics. Of course, it has changed, as we've talked about, but the change is not quite as dramatic as you would see if this is like Hong Kong stored or Taiwan stored or something along those lines.
So nice. The body is so lovely. It actually really has that sort of white tea, viscous, thick, soupy thing. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a good day for Yiwu, too.
So, mom test.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, these Yiwus, these pu'ers in general, I think are a little tricky on that.
Right. And I was going to say, of the raw pu'er that I could imagine passing the mom test, young Yiwu would be up there.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
So interestingly enough, this has, again, to your point earlier, a lot more depth, and I think, as a result, a lot more capacity to age it.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? Ultralight, probably not.
No.
Tea Nerd tea?
I think so, actually.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that's a little bit far afield from what you would expect. So if you're used to Yiwu, this would be a little bit different. It's not like, this is no criticism in any way, it's not like the craziest, most extravagant tea ever. Just sort of like a different take at a kind of a classic tea that we're really familiar with. And so, I would recommend this for sure.
Yeah.
But it might taste similar to something that folks out there who are nerdy on tea probably have already had. What?
So if you were putting this in like a lineup of teas, like if you're trying to determine the lineup, would you put this early, late, kind of in the middle?
Probably middle.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it could go either way, yeah. If you're
early,
capping with this, then you need to make sure you're not brewing any super strong teas.
Yeah.
Because, this is going, for instance, the Lao Ban Zhang that we had, the really bitter one fairly recently.
Right.
That tea would overpower this one.
Yeah.
So if you had that tea before this, then probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
This would also kind of pair oddly with maybe something a little older, too, because then you're coming back to this floral younger note.
Mm-hmm. It's really nice. There's a lot of not a lot of bitterness, but a lot more bitterness than I would expect on a residual basis from this tea.
And it's a lot of just body to it, too.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a lot of not particularly sweet. I would say that's the other characteristic of this is it's not as sweet as you would necessarily get, which is why maybe you could trick some people with this tea into thinking it's not Yiwu.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not a diss on this tea at all.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Or what do the kids say on TikTok?
No cap.
No cap.
On God, fam, no cap. Chiyoung, or whatever.
Yeah.
I literally asked Kaylee how to pronounce that. She just burst out laughing. I was like, okay, this isn't going to make sense in the video.
Yeah. What's up, fam?
What's up, fam? What's the tea? You know that one, right?
No. We're old. We're geriatric millennials.
What's the gossip? We are geriatric millennials.
Yeah.
To that, we have children. Weird. Salute. Incredible that people let us do that. There should be laws about that.
So here is one last question.
Yeah.
How long do you think this tea would go for?
That's a good question, actually. Because I feel like Yiwu does tend to die off more quickly, but this has a lot of
it's going
bitterness.
pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of the delicateness might be waning a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd say I would guess if I had to 80% of a typical raw maybe.
Okay.
Whereas in Yiwu, a young Yiwu, I would say 60% maybe.
Okay, so a bit more than typical Yiwu.
Mm-hmm.
The
texture is so good.
Yeah, the oomph in it is really striking. Just the more we brew it too. Let's do one more.
Yeah, I'm gonna smell this real quick. Really uniform leaves too. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's good. It's different. I mean, again, that's kind of why the tea nerd in me is this is technically an Yiwu. Not technically. It's definitely an Yiwu, but it doesn't taste like it very much.
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, I'd say it has a lot of characteristics of it, but it's not your stereotypical.
Right.
Yiwu.
Yeah. It's a bit far field. Hints of the apricot. Now, still having quite a bit of the bitterness flavor going on. That again, your kind of classic peaty, grassy, raw.
Yeah.
Really lovely.
It'd be a very interesting comparison versus a more stereotypically bitter tea from a area that is more typically bitter. To see how it compares and contrasts. Mm-hmm. Just because this does have that bitterness, but I wonder how much of it is striking just because it's an Yiwu.
How do you think this is going to age out for over let's say 20 years? Let's give it
I think it'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a lot of oomph. It's obviously a stronger Yiwu,
right.
So the concerns about it being mellow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think.
What about those sweeter notes that you get that you would expect, and that are somewhat present here? What do you think was going to happen to those?
I think those. Hard to say,
yeah.
But I do think it'll probably kind of pick up that aged tea sweetness,
yeah.
Which is a little bit of a different characteristic.
Right.
So I do think this might be kind of at a sweetness lull, and it'll pick back up as it ages a bit more. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if when you first drank this tea, if it was much sweeter and much more bitter. Probably.
Could have been. Yeah. I think that's what my guess would be.
Yeah. Oh man, if I had infinite time, being a tea farmer would be pretty crazy.
Cheerio.
Mm-mm. Maybe my sort of neurology is now used to the bitterness, but it tastes much sweeter to me now. I still taste the bitterness.
Yeah.
It's kind of coming around. Really
sort
lovely.
of rounded out. Yeah. It's interesting when you have if you drink so much raw pour and then you serve raw pour to someone else, you're like, oh yeah, and you taste all these things. They're like, no, nah, it's just fucking bitter, man. It's like the ultimate mom test. I've heard multiple people giving tea to their mom, and they're like, oh yeah, this this really nice Yiwu and stuff. Like, nah, man, it's just bitter.
I mean, I dig it.
Yeah.
Cool. Tea Encounter. I don't think I've had a tea from those folks that I could say a negative thing about at all. Go check them out.
You have not had a negative tea encounter from Tea Encounter?
You're fired. That was pretty good. I have not. Follow us on TikTok if you liked this. No, check out Tea Encounter. Give them a Google. Like I said, kind of categorically going to be great. So I would say kind of anything that strikes your fancy is a go.
And they've sent us a bunch of stuff, so we'll probably be bringing some more stuff onto the show.
Awesome.
Soon.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're not saying that because they send us stuff. We're saying it because it's true. And folks, friends ask, what do I recommend and stuff. And it is genuinely a lot of the brands that we bring onto the show. So, follow us on TikTok. We're really active. TDB... What's our TikTok handle?
T-Talk.
T-Talk.
Which is definitely not a handle that we could ever get.
No. Send this to your dog's advisor. Financial advisor. Because they need to know about this. Real bad. What else? We do stuff on the internet. Subscribe if you want, whatever. We'll see you guys next time.